Listen carefully, because this is not a random message and it is not arriving to you by accident. If this message has reached you before the 20th of April, then you must understand something deeply in your spirit. God is interrupting your ordinary flow of life. God is stepping into your timeline. God is placing a divine signal in your hands and saying, do not ignore this moment, because there are seasons in life that pass quietly and there are seasons that thunder with meaning. This is one of those thunderous seasons. You may think you are simply scrolling, simply listening, simply passing time, but heaven does not waste timing. If this has reached you before that specific date, then something is already in motion for you. Something unseen but powerful, something that will only make sense when you look back and realize that this was the moment your shift began. You have been wondering why certain doors have not opened yet. You have been questioning why certain prayers feel delayed, why certain breakthroughs feel distant, why certain nights feel heavier than others. But listen deeply, delay is not denial when God is involved. Sometimes what you call delay is actually divine preparation. Sometimes what you call silence is actually God building strength in you that you cannot see yet. Because if God released everything you prayed for too early, you would not have the spiritual capacity to carry it. And so He shapes you in hidden places. He strengthens you in unseen battles. He develops endurance in your soul so that when the appointed time arrives, you will not collapse under the weight of blessing, but stand firm in it with gratitude and wisdom. And now hear this with your heart, not just your ears. Something is shifting right now, not later, not someday, but now. If this message has found you before the 20th of April, then you are standing at the threshold. One step behind you is the version of you that struggled, doubted, questioned, and waited in confusion. One step ahead of you is a version of you that you have not yet met. The version that walks in clarity, in alignment, in divine direction. And the distance between those two versions is not years, not decades, not even months. It is a decision to rise, a decision to trust, a decision to believe again when everything inside you feels tired of believing. There is a reason you were chosen to hear this. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will feel the weight of it, but you do, because deep inside you, there has always been a voice that refuses to die. The voice that says, there is more for me than this. That voice is not imagination. That voice is not wishful thinking. That voice is the reminder of God's purpose over your life. And no matter how many setbacks you have faced, no matter how many disappointments have tried to silence you, that voice is still there. Because God does not place purpose inside a person and then abandon it. What He begins, He shapes. What He plants, He waters. What He promises, He fulfills in its time. But the challenge is this: many people miss their turning point, not because God was silent, but because they were distracted. They were looking everywhere except where God was pointing. They were waiting for loud signs while God was speaking in quiet instruction. They were expecting dramatic answers while God was working through subtle direction. And so today, this moment is not just encouragement, it is awakening. Wake up to your season. Wake up to your calling. Wake up to the fact that your life is not random. You are not drifting without meaning. You are being guided even when you do not understand the path. You must understand something powerful about divine timing. When God prepares to elevate a person, He first tests their endurance in silence. He watches what you do when no one is clapping for you. He observes your faith when nothing is changing on the outside. He strengthens your character when no one is watching your struggle, because promotion without preparation would destroy you. Blessing without maturity would overwhelm you. And so the unseen season becomes the foundation of the seen breakthrough. And what you are calling waiting is actually God building something in you that will carry you into your next dimension. And now I speak directly into your spirit. Do not give up now. Not when you are closer than you think. Not when the atmosphere around you is already shifting. Not when God has already begun aligning things that you cannot yet see. There are connections forming right now that you did not arrange. There are opportunities being prepared that you did not apply for yet. There are doors being positioned that you did not even know existed. Because when God decides to lift a person, He does not need permission from circumstances. He moves beyond limitations. He overrides barriers. He rewrites outcomes. But there is something required from you in this moment. Not perfection, not flawless faith, but surrender. A willingness to say, God, I trust you even when I do not understand you. That is the kind of faith that moves mountains. Not loud faith, not performative faith, but quiet, steady, unshakable trust. The kind of trust that keeps walking even when the road is unclear. The kind of trust that keeps praying even when answers are delayed. The kind of trust that refuses to quit when emotions say otherwise. If this message has reached you before the 20th of April, then hear this clearly. Do not treat this time casually. There is a narrow window of alignment opening over your life. A window where decisions matter more than emotions. A window where obedience matters more than logic. A window where stepping forward in faith will produce outcomes that hesitation would have delayed. You may not see the full picture yet, but you are not asked to see everything. You are asked to trust the one who sees everything. And I want you to reflect deeply right now. How many times did you almost quit, but something held you? How many times did you feel like giving up, but something inside you refused? That something was not random strength, that was divine preservation. God did not allow you to break completely because your story is not finished. God did not allow your ending to come in your darkest moment because He still has light prepared for your path. Now listen, there is a turning point approaching in your life. It may come as an opportunity or a conversation or a sudden idea or an unexpected opening. But when it comes, you will recognize it not by how logical it seems, but by how deeply it resonates in your spirit. Because when God opens a door, it carries peace, even when it challenges fear. It carries clarity, even when it stretches comfort. It carries direction, even when it demands courage. And so I urge you with everything in this message, prepare your heart. Not just your plans, but your heart. Because the greatest battles are not fought in external circumstances, but in internal resistance. Fear will try to hold you back. Doubt will try to slow you down. Past failures will try to remind you of who you used to be. But none of those voices define you. Only God does. And God is not calling you based on your past. He is calling you based on your purpose. If you are hearing this before the 20th of April, then do not miss what is being spoken in this moment. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to rise. This is not the time to question your worth. This is the time to remember your assignment. This is not the time to shrink back into fear. This is the time to step forward into alignment, because something is already moving in your favor, even if your eyes cannot yet confirm it. And as this message reaches its depth, let it settle in your heart like a seed that cannot be removed. God has not forgotten you. God has not overlooked you. God has not abandoned your story. The same God who carried you through yesterday is the same God who's preparing your tomorrow. And what He has prepared for you will not be wasted, will not be stolen, and will not be delayed beyond His perfect purpose. So stand firm, believe again, trust again, and walk forward, because your season is already closer than you think. And now, as this word continues to settle in your spirit, I need you to understand something deeper than motivation, deeper than emotion, deeper than temporary inspiration. What is happening around your life right now is not random movement. It is divine orchestration. God does not shift a person without first speaking to them in ways the world cannot fully interpret. And if you are feeling something stirring inside you as you hear this, that is not coincidence. That is alignment beginning to awaken within you. There are moments in life when everything feels ordinary on the surface, but spiritually everything is rearranging underneath. People may still see your current situation, but they do not see the invisible construction happening over your destiny. They do not see the patience God is building in you. They do not see the endurance forming in your character. They do not see the quiet strengthening of your spirit when no one was around to encourage you. But God sees it. And what God is building in hidden places will one day speak loudly in public places. And I want you to pause in your heart for a moment and ask yourself honestly, what if this season is not here to break me, but to build me? What if the pressure I feel is not punishment, but preparation? What if the closed doors I keep facing are not rejection, but protection? Because sometimes God closes what you are desperately trying to open, not because He is against you, but because He is ahead of you. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you are not ready for. And in His wisdom, He preserves you from paths that would have drained your purpose instead of fulfilling it. But here is where the real transformation begins. When you stop fighting the process and start learning from it. Many people miss their breakthrough because they argue with their season instead of understanding it. They resist what God is trying to refine. They complain about what God is trying to correct. They panic in what God is using to prepare them. But listen carefully. Nothing wasted in God's process is ever truly wasted. Every delay is shaping something. Every silence is strengthening something. Every waiting period is building something that urgency could never produce. And now hear this with seriousness. You are closer than you feel, but you must not let emotion mislead you into quitting right before elevation. The hardest part of any journey is not the beginning and not even the middle. It is the moment just before breakthrough when everything feels stagnant, but everything is actually shifting. That is where most people give up. That is where most people step back. That is where most people assume nothing is happening. But spiritually, that is often where God is doing His most precise work. You must develop eyes that can see beyond circumstances, because circumstances are temporary, but divine purpose is permanent. What you are going through right now is not your conclusion. It is your formation. And formation is never comfortable. It stretches you, it humbles you, it challenges your expectations. It removes pride you did not notice. It strengthens faith you did not know you had. And in the end, it produces a version of you that can carry what God is preparing to release. So I ask you directly, are you resisting growth because it feels uncomfortable? Are you rejecting discipline because it interrupts your desires? Are you confusing silence with absence because God is not absent in your silence? He is intentional in it. He's teaching you how to stand when nothing around you is confirming your steps. He is teaching you how to trust when no visible evidence supports your belief. He is teaching you how to move forward even when your emotions are not aligned yet. And this is where maturity begins. Not when everything is easy, but when faith becomes stronger than feeling. There will come a point where you will have to decide, will I live based on what I see, or will I live based on what God has already spoken over my life? Because what God has spoken does not change just because circumstances delay it. Divine timing is not controlled by human impatience. It unfolds according to wisdom, not urgency. Now I want to challenge something deep inside you. Stop measuring your life by what has not happened yet. Stop defining yourself by what is still in progress. Stop interpreting your journey as failure just because it has not fully manifested. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are being positioned. And positioning always feels like waiting before it feels like winning. There is a strength being formed in you that cannot be rushed. And when that strength matures, you will look back and realize why certain things had to break away, why certain people had to leave, why certain doors had to remain closed. Because God was not removing you from purpose. He was removing distractions from your path. He was clearing space for something pure, something aligned, something deeply connected to your true assignment. And hear this with conviction. What is coming into your life will require a version of you that cannot be careless with destiny. It will require focus. It will require humility. It will require spiritual awareness. It will require consistency when excitement fades. Because blessings are not just emotional experiences, they are responsibilities. And God does not release responsibility to those who are not prepared to carry it with maturity. So do not pray only for open doors. Pray for strength to walk through them correctly. Do not pray only for elevation. Pray for wisdom to handle elevation. Do not pray only for change in circumstances. Pray for transformation in character, because what God is preparing for you is not small, it is not ordinary, and it will not be sustained by weak faith or unstable focus. And now, in this very moment, I want you to reflect inwardly once again. What is God already asking you to release that you are still holding on to? What mindset is limiting your growth? What fear is silently controlling your decisions? What doubt has been shaping your expectations? Because breakthrough is not only about what God does externally, it is also about what He removes internally. And if this message has reached you before the 20th of April, then understand this deeply. You are in a sensitive spiritual window where clarity can increase if you choose surrender. Confusion does not come from God. It comes when alignment is resisted. And the moment you choose to trust instead of question, something within you begins to settle. Direction becomes clearer. Strength becomes steadier. Peace begins to return even before circumstances change. Do not underestimate the power of inner peace, because when God begins to move, He first stabilizes your spirit before He changes your situation. If your spirit is unsettled, you will not recognize opportunity even when it stands before you. But when peace fills you, even small signs become clear instructions. Even subtle shifts become meaningful guidance. So stand firm now, not in anxiety, not in fear, not in desperation, but in quiet trust. Because what is coming is already in motion, and what God has already initiated, no resistance can cancel. Your role is not to force it. Your role is to be ready for it, to remain faithful, to remain steady, to remain open, and to keep walking even when you do not yet see the full picture. And as this continues to unfold in the unseen realm over your life, remember this above everything else. God is not finished with your story. Not even close. And now I want to take you even deeper, beyond what you have already felt, beyond what you have already understood, because there is a level of awareness in God where you no longer interpret life emotionally. You begin to discern it spiritually. You stop reacting to every delay as a problem. You stop interpreting every silence as rejection. You stop treating every closed door as the end of your path. Instead, you begin to ask a different question. God, what are you building in me through this? Because when you reach that place, your entire relationship with life begins to change. You are no longer shaken by what you see, because you have learned to trust what God is doing unseen. You are no longer controlled by sudden fear, because you recognize that fear is often a signal of spiritual resistance against your next level. And you are no longer discouraged by waiting, because you understand that waiting in God is never empty. It is always full of preparation, alignment, and hidden strengthening. Let this sink into your spirit right now. Not everything that delays you is against you. Some things are being held back because if they arrive too early, they would overwhelm the current version of you. And God, in His wisdom, never gives assignment without readiness. He never releases responsibility without capacity. He never opens a destiny-level door without forming the character needed to walk through it. That is why your process has felt intense. That is why your journey has felt stretched. That is why your faith has been tested in ways you did not expect, because you are not being ignored. You are being developed. And I want you to think deeply about this. What if the struggle you are trying to escape is actually the environment where your strength is being formed? What if the pressure you keep praying away is actually the pressure that is producing endurance in your spirit? Because diamonds are not formed in comfort. Steel is not strengthened in ease. Gold is not refined without fire. And in the same way, destiny is not shaped in convenience. It is shaped in process. There are moments when God allows you to feel the weight of uncertainty, not to harm you, but to teach you dependence. Because as long as everything is predictable, you rarely lean into God deeply. But when certainty disappears, something in you begins to search for higher guidance. That is when prayer becomes real. That is when faith becomes active. That is when your inner life begins to awaken. And even though it feels uncomfortable, it is often the most sacred place of transformation. Now hear this with clarity. You are not stuck. You are in transition. And transition always feels like instability before it feels like arrival. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. And positioning often looks like waiting before it looks like movement. You are not abandoned. You are being prepared. And preparation often feels like delay before it becomes manifestation. But the truth remains unchanged. God is working even when nothing appears to be moving. And I need you to challenge something inside your thinking right now. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you underestimated what God is doing simply because you could not see it yet? How many times have you assumed nothing was happening because nothing was visible? But God is not limited to visibility. In fact, some of His greatest work happens in invisibility. The shaping of your future often happens in places where no human applause exists, where no recognition exists, where no validation exists. Because God does not need public approval to prepare private victory. There is a deeper maturity He is calling you into, a maturity where your emotions no longer dictate your obedience, where your feelings no longer override your direction, where your fears no longer control your steps. This is not a light transformation. It is a deep restructuring of how you think, how you respond, how you endure, how you believe. And it is necessary because what is coming into your life will require stability, not instability. It will require clarity, not confusion. It will require spiritual grounding, not emotional reaction. So let me speak directly into your current state. Stop disqualifying yourself based on where you are right now. Stop assuming your current condition defines your final outcome. Stop interpreting temporary struggle as permanent identity. You are not your season. You are not your delay. You are not your current limitation. You are what God has declared over your life, not what your present situation suggests. And if this message has reached you before the 20th of April, then understand this as a spiritual signal. Something is aligning in your favor, but you must not misinterpret the tension of transition. When God is about to elevate a person, there is often a final stretch of pressure that feels heavier than expected. That is not punishment. That is final preparation. It is the last shaping before release, the last adjustment before clarity, the last internal strengthening before external breakthrough. You may feel like things are intensifying, but in reality they are organizing. What feels chaotic is often just rearrangement. What feels uncertain is often just positioning. What feels delayed is often just divine timing unfolding exactly as it should. And the more you trust this process, the more peace begins to return even in the middle of unknown outcomes. Now I want to speak to your courage, not the courage you show publicly, but the courage you must develop privately. The courage to keep believing when no one else understands your belief. The courage to keep walking when no one else sees your direction. The courage to keep trusting when nothing externally confirms your trust. That is the kind of courage God is forming in you right now. A quiet courage, a steady courage, a deeply rooted courage that cannot be easily shaken, because the truth is this: your next season will not be carried by emotion, it will be carried by conviction. And conviction is what remains when feelings change. Conviction is what stands when pressure increases. Conviction is what holds you when uncertainty surrounds you. And God is building that conviction inside you step by step, moment by moment, season by season. So do not rush what God is carefully forming. Do not try to force what God is intentionally developing. And do not abandon what God is still building simply because it has not yet reached completion. There is a timing to everything He does. And nothing He delays is ever wasted. Everything He allows is part of a greater design you are not yet fully able to see. And now, as this message reaches deeper into your awareness, I want you to feel something very clearly. You are not alone in this process. Even in your quiet moments, even in your unanswered questions, even in your internal struggles, you are not alone. God is present in every step, guiding, shaping, aligning, and preparing you for what you cannot yet comprehend. And one day, you will look back at this exact moment and realize that what felt like uncertainty was actually the beginning of clarity. What felt like delay was actually the preparation for acceleration. What felt like silence was actually God speaking in the deepest way possible, forming you, not just informing you. So stand steady now, not because everything is clear, but because God is faithful. Not because everything is visible, but because purpose is already established. Not because everything feels easy, but because your foundation is being strengthened for something far greater than what you have known so far. And now I want to take you into a deeper place of understanding where you can stop interpreting your life only through what is happening around you and begin to discern what is being shaped within you. Because the greatest transformation God ever performs in a person's life is not always external at first. It is internal. It is the reshaping of perception, the refining of thought, the strengthening of spiritual awareness that allows you to carry what you once could not carry. You must understand this truth with clarity. Your external world always responds to your internal alignment. When your inner world is unstable, everything outside feels delayed, confusing, and overwhelming. But when your inner world becomes anchored in trust, even uncertainty begins to lose its power over you. This is why God works deeply within before He works visibly around you. He is not just changing your situation, He's preparing your capacity to handle the change. And I want you to confront something honestly in your spirit right now. How often have you mistaken discomfort for abandonment? How often have you assumed that because something is difficult, it must be wrong? But difficulty is not always opposition. Sometimes difficulty is development. Sometimes difficulty is the very sign that you are not where you used to be anymore, and you are being stretched into something greater than your former limits. There are levels in life where God begins to remove shortcuts from your path. Not because He is making things harder, but because He is making you stronger. Because if everything in your life was easy, you would never develop the spiritual muscles required for your destiny. And so He allows resistance not to break you, but to build you. not to weaken you, but to prepare you for endurance that cannot be shaken by external pressure. Now hear this deeply. You are entering a phase where excuses will no longer carry you forward. Emotional instability will not sustain you. Doubt-driven decisions will not protect you. Fear-based hesitation will not align you with your purpose. This is a season where God is calling you into clarity, discipline, and spiritual maturity. A season where you must begin to choose alignment over emotion, obedience over confusion, and trust over hesitation. And yes, I know there are moments when you feel like you are standing in between two realities, what you have known and what you are called into. That tension is real, that pressure is real, but do not misinterpret it. You are not being pulled apart. You are being transitioned forward. And every transition carries discomfort before it carries understanding. There is something powerful happening beneath your awareness right now. Decisions are being shaped, direction is being refined, relationships are being realigned, opportunities are being arranged, but none of it is loud yet, none of it is fully visible yet, because God does not always announce His movement before He manifests His results. Sometimes He works in silence so that when the result appears, it could not have been human effort alone. And I want to challenge your thinking at a deeper level now. What if the very thing you have been calling delay is actually divine protection from something you are not ready to see? What if what you thought was rejection was actually redirection away from a path that would have drained your strength? What if what you called closed doors were actually boundaries set by God to preserve your destiny from premature exposure? Because God is not only concerned with where you go, He is concerned with who you become on the way there. And sometimes He will delay arrival in order to develop character. He will slow down progress in order to strengthen foundation. He will limit speed in order to ensure stability, because a fast arrival without a strong foundation always leads to collapse. But a steady process builds something that can last. Now listen carefully. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. These are lies that confusion whispers when clarity has not yet fully arrived. But truth is stronger than confusion. And truth says this: you are exactly where you need to be in the process of becoming what God has already ordained over your life. And if this message has reached you before the 20th of April, then I want you to recognize something spiritually significant. This is not just information, this is activation. Something within you is being called to rise. Not later, not someday, but now, because there are seasons where hesitation becomes costly and there are seasons where obedience becomes acceleration. You must begin to ask yourself real questions. Not surface questions, but questions that shape destiny. Am I living in alignment with what I truly know is right in my spirit? Am I delaying obedience because of fear disguised as logic? Am I resisting change because comfort feels safer than purpose? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary questions, because transformation does not begin with external change. It begins with internal honesty. And I want to speak something very directly into your spirit right now. God is not asking you to be perfect. He is asking you to be willing to move when He says move, willing to stay when He says stay, willing to release what He says release, willing to trust even when understanding has not yet arrived. That willingness is the doorway to your next dimension. There is a shift coming into your life that will not be gradual in feeling. It will be sudden in realization. One moment you will feel like nothing is changing, and the next moment you will realize everything has already begun to align, because God does not always show you the process in real time. Sometimes He lets you walk through it and only later reveals what He was doing all along. And when that moment comes, you will not be able to deny it. You will look back and say, now I understand why that happened. Now I see why that door closed. Now I see why that delay was necessary. But until that moment arrives, your responsibility is trust. Not full visibility, not complete clarity, just trust. So I want you to strengthen something inside yourself right now. Strengthen your patience, strengthen your discipline, strengthen your consistency, because what is coming will not be sustained by emotional excitement. It will be sustained by spiritual stability. And stability is built in seasons like this, where nothing seems fast, but everything is forming. Do not rush out of your process. Do not abandon your learning place. Do not resist the shaping of your character, because what God is building in you right now is not temporary. It is foundational. It will support everything that comes next in your life. And as you continue forward from this moment, carry this truth with you deeply. God is not only preparing what you are praying for, He is preparing you for what you are praying for. And when both align, nothing can stop what is about to unfold in your life. And now, as this message reaches its final depth, I want you to feel something that words alone cannot fully carry. This is not just encouragement. This is not just motivation. This is a spiritual awakening calling you back to alignment with your true purpose. Because there comes a moment in every life when you must stop drifting and start deciding. A moment when you must stop reacting to life and start responding to God with clarity, with courage, and with conviction. You have heard many things in your life. You have felt many emotions. You have walked through seasons that tested you in ways no one fully saw. But now something different is being asked of you. Not more knowledge, not more information, but transformation. A shift in how you live, a shift in how you trust, a shift in how you surrender. Because God is not only interested in what you achieve, but in who you become while you are becoming it. So I want to speak to the deepest place in you right now, the place that has been quiet but not empty, the place that has been waiting even when you felt like giving up, the place that still believes there is more for your life even after disappointment tried to convince you otherwise. That place is not imagination. That place is divine reminder. It is the evidence that God has not removed His purpose from your life even when your circumstances try to convince you otherwise. Now you must ask yourself honestly, without distraction, without excuses, without delay, am I living aligned with what I know in my spirit is true? Am I walking in obedience to what I have been shown internally, even if it feels uncomfortable externally? Am I choosing fear or am I choosing trust? Am I delaying what I already know I must do? Because hear this clearly, life does not change when understanding increases alone. Life changes when response follows understanding, when action follows conviction, when trust becomes movement, and when surrender becomes lifestyle, not just emotion. There is a sacred responsibility placed upon your life, whether you fully recognize it yet or not. And responsibility is not pressure, it is purpose in motion. But it requires your participation. It requires your willingness. It requires your yes, even when everything inside you feels uncertain. Because God does not force transformation. He invites it. He calls you into it. And then He waits for your response. And now I want to bring you to a moment of stillness within yourself. Not distraction, not noise, just honesty. If everything external was removed for a moment, every opinion, every fear, every expectation, what would remain between you and your Creator? Would there be alignment or resistance? Would there be trust or hesitation? Would there be surrender or control? Because this is where real life begins, not in performance, not in appearance, but in truth. And truth always leads to freedom when it is accepted, not avoided. So let this be your turning point, not in emotion decision alone, but in decision. Decide to walk differently. Decide to think differently. Decide to trust differently. Decide to stop abandoning what God is building in you just because it feels slow or uncertain. Because what is slow in human eyes is often precise in divine timing. And what feels delayed is often perfectly aligned in unseen order. And now, as this reaches the deepest place it can reach, I want you to understand this with your whole being. You are not forgotten. You are not outside of purpose. You are not disconnected from meaning. You are being guided even now, even here, even in what you do not yet understand. But guidance requires response. Light requires openness. Direction requires willingness. And alignment requires surrender. So rise in your spirit, not in pride, not in fear, but in awareness. Awareness that your life carries weight. Awareness that your decisions matter. Awareness that your path is not random. And awareness that you are being called to live with intention, with faith, and with obedience that is stronger than hesitation. And as this moment settles over you, carry this truth with you beyond this point of hearing. God is not only watching your life, He is shaping it with purpose that has not yet fully unfolded. And your responsibility is to trust Him enough to walk forward even when you cannot yet see the full picture. Now let this be the quiet fire that remains within you. Do not waste what you are becoming. Do not ignore what you already know in your spirit. Do not delay the obedience that is waiting at the door of your heart, because what you respond to now will echo into everything that follows. And may your heart remember this, not as words you heard once, but as truth you chose to live.